think it might be exciting if we have the rise of nationalism or popular nationalism as embodied by Trump and various political parties in Europe on the right, such as in Italy and Hungary and Poland. I think there's a way forward. Now, I think much of the situation we're in the West today reminds me of a debate that took place at, I think, the Oxford Union circa 1936. And the question was for England's elite. They were asked, would you be willing to die to protect your country? And overwhelmingly, this elite voted no. They would not be willing to die to protect their country. But when war came, they overwhelmingly did risk their lives, and they were willing to die to protect their countries. So there are all sorts of poses. There are all sorts of new and exciting things to say that go against the conventional wisdom of your civilization. And one of them is, I wouldn't risk my life to protect this country. This country is imperialistic and racist. And that's an edgy pose to take in certain circumstances. But if the United States, for example, was under attack, these very same people who are condemning the United States for being racist and sexist and imperialist, they would frequently be leading the way in risking their lives, defending this country, designing the weapon systems and the technology to lead us to victories. So when you're very intelligent, you can live very much in an abstract world, and you can say all sorts of things that are completely different from the way you live. And you see this in the way that our elite, our most intelligent citizens, they overwhelmingly get married, have kids, and lead conservative traditional lives, even while espousing left-wing talking points. So I would not be surprised if the United States got into, say, a real war for its survival, that the very elites who've been trashing the country suddenly did the exact same 180 that England's elites did when it had to go to war with Germany in 1939.
When it comes to the self-esteem of individuals within the West, we discussed sort of how men could have lower self-esteem, but I think women do as well, because I see a lot of discontent out there among women. They think men are not interested in them for who they are, so on and so forth. There's the incel community among men that probably might be best described as forever alone, but there's the femcel community, in which case they're pretty much forever alone, but for females. And there seems to be a lot of loneliness and alienation in the West today, Luke, even though people are now more in touch with each other via technology than ever before. And I find that to be very interesting, ironic, and interesting at the same time.
Well, when I go back to Australia, I immediately feel a camaraderie and a high social trust there that I don't feel nearly as often in America. When I get off the plane and go through customs, I'm dealing with people like myself, and it's a friendly interaction, as opposed to going through customs in the United States and you're dealing with people who hate you. By and large, you're dealing with a system that is hostile to you. So with America's growing diversity, we have increasingly less social trust. We have less social cohesion, and we have people trying on all these new roles. There's a big difference between the media turning people into zombies and the media influencing people somewhat. So, for example, it was traditionally thought that to have a stable civilization, you've got to get men married, right? You've got to take that male sexual genie and stick it into the marital bottle, to use Dennis Prager's terminology. And at the same time, you need to limit women's tendencies to hypergamy, to always trying to marry up. And so that was the traditional orientation. And so it took these two unattractive parts of male and female nature, and it incentivized the strong control of these destructive urges. Unfortunately, we don't do that nearly as much anymore. So we don't have as many marriages. We don't have as many stable families. People are much more isolated. We don't have the social cohesion and the social trust that we used to have. People feel less safe doing things together. And so people stay home more and just watch TV instead of volunteering, instead of participating more fully in life. But that which cannot go on will not go on indefinitely. So, for example, religious people have kids, and secular people, by and large, don't have as many kids. So, perhaps the future belongs to the religious, or at least the descendants of the religious. So many of the people who are leading a life that is against nature, they're not reproducing nearly as well as those who are leading more traditional lives.
It's interesting because I think the more traditional life does have appeal to people in a big way, but at the same time, they don't want to give the conveniences of modernity in order to live in this more traditional fashion. And so that produces a sort of 1 foot here, 1 foot there scenario in which dissatisfaction is the ultimate result. And I do see a lot of this in the West today. And certainly, I would say that contributes to its lowered self esteem. Whether or not this can be turned around in the future is interesting because I see a lot of anger on both sides.